So in this video now, I would just like to take a look at how it is that we experience life from a slightly alternative perspective, all right? Now, what I could do in a course such as this, I could just say in a video, thoughts produce feelings, feelings determine decisions, and our choices in life, the choices that we make determine the outcomes that we get. The outcomes that we get, we have more thoughts about, and this is the cycle of life. Full stop. End of course. All right. Now, I actually read a book around about a decade ago, and this was it was more of a life coaching based book by an author named Mr. Michael Neal. I think he calls himself Super Coach over in the States somewhere. It's not so much of a coaching model. It's just our way of looking at life. Now, this was his idea, not really his idea, but it's an idea that he'd borrowed from, I think, a gentleman named Mr. Sydney Banks, author of a fantastic range of books called The Enlightened Gardener, and he's very much looking at the kind of the body-mind connection, all this kind of thing. Anyway, this whole book was just based around this very, very simple idea on how it is that we experience life. Thoughts produce feelings, feelings produce decisions, decisions produce outcomes. And I think he called the book The Inside Out Revolution. And to be honest with you, when I read it, I found it very, very eye-opening. Yeah, a very, very simple, basic idea, all right? But to be honest, very, very grounded, and gave me, back then, a real level of depth in what I've gone on to teach and unpack, and even what I'm talking about today. So this is kind of giving us a little bit of context for the model that I want to share with you here, all right? We've acknowledged now there's different levels and parts of us all kind of merged into one, isn't there? So we've got to understand this. Even though this is a CBT-based course spawning from cognitive psychology, we cannot just look at life or people with blinkers on, all right, and just be operating from one perspective. We want to have a really balanced, holistic perspective when looking at life. So we understand that we've got three different parts of us. We've got the body. We know we've got the mind, and we have this little bit going on in here. We could call this heart, we could call it spirit. You might have a different word for it, it's entirely up to you. So I'm just gonna call it spirit, all right? Stroke, heart. Right. Now, all the biological psychologists, they'll be saying, yes, the heart doesn't exist. That's just the organ that pumps all the blood around our body. But don't we know that the heart is a little bit more than that? Of course we do, if we understand ourselves. So we've looked a few videos ago at this idea. If you nip yourself, if you pinch yourself, if you fall over and skin your knees, if you've ever broken a bone, we feel physical pain in our physical body, full stop. This is one way in which we experience life. But then we also experience life on this heart, spirit level, when we experience heartache, loss, grievance, mourning, things like that. We experience love in here. How do you even begin to explain love? If I was to ask you to explain love to me, what would you say? Never mind giving reference to how you feel or what you believe or anything like this. Explain love. Good luck with that one. It's a tough one, isn't it? All right, but it kind of lives in our heart, right? How is it you know that you love someone, right? How do you know that you love your spouse or your children or your parents or your family or your friends or there's going to be someone in your life that you love? How do you know that you love them? You're going to find it very, very difficult to say anything apart from, well, I just kind of know in here, in my heart or spirit or whatever we call this part of us. So, all I really want to do here, I want to focus on the mind, all right? And I want to suggest that this kind of can be broken down into a couple of different segments, if you like. Now, some people, some organizations will refer to the mind as the soul, or there's different terms that we can use, but we want to keep things just quite straightforward here. What I've done on this diagram, all right, is I've done put this little image here, the little devil and the little angel, all right. I'm sure you can relate. Have you ever found yourself in circumstances or situations in life and it's time to make a decision, and you've got one little voice telling you to do one thing, and then you've got this other little voice telling you to do something else, and these voices are completely contrasting. They're like chalk and cheese, like black and white, and ultimately what you go on to choose determines the outcomes that you get, be them good or bad. And what I just want to show you here is that the mind is this part of our body, all right? It's not just the brain, I'm calling it the mind, all right? It's this functioning mind where all the cognitions go on. Thoughts, as I've mentioned, we don't have any control over our thoughts. I mean, think about it. When was the last time in your life that you ever controlled one thought or one image popping into your head? All right? Now, what I'm not saying here is that we are not in control of whether we choose to focus on thoughts or not, because that is something that we can do. But in terms of choosing the thoughts that pop into our minds, no, we can't. We can choose what we focus on, but we can't choose the thoughts that pop in to begin with. Just to give you an example, think about this, relate this idea to yourself. What about all the negative ones? Do you know when you make a mistake or you screw up or you stuff up or something like this, and then automatically, what do you say? Oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, I'm so useless. Oh, I'm this. And then you start feeling doom and gloom or guilt or shame or something like this. Thoughts produce feelings, don't they? All right, let's look at this. So it's important to understand that as human beings, we are not our thoughts. Now, I've worked with many people over the years who've ended up beating themselves up. They will condemn themselves sometimes because they think bad thoughts. But here's the thing, thoughts are just thoughts. We are not our thoughts. Our thoughts are separate from us. And we have this part of us, as I highlighted in 2 videos ago, the volitional part of us that determines whether we action our thoughts or whether we don't. Right? And I'll be straight with you, I have some absolutely foul thoughts on a day-to-day basis. You know, I could give you an honest example here from a man's perspective. Now, this might sound like a really weird thing to say in a cognitive behavioural therapy course like this, but I'm married to my wife, Karen, and I love her in my heart, all right? And I'm committed to marry. But see, when we walk through the local city, all right, if I was to see a member of the opposite sex who I find attractive, I will look and I'll have all sorts of thoughts, all right? But over the years, I've disciplined my mind. I might look once, I might have a thought, but I will not focus on the thought, and I most certainly will not look twice. All right? This is self-control. This is what we're talking about when we are learning to manage ourselves, self-regulate. It only happens when we're aware of ourselves. When we are aware that, okay, these thoughts are popping into our minds, I like to refer to thoughts as the arch enemy of our lives. All right? If every single one of us acted upon every single thought that pops into our mind, my goodness, the world would be in absolute chaos, wouldn't it? And I'm sure you're nodding your head saying, absolutely, Kane, I can totally agree. So, the mind is where the thoughts come in, all right? But here's the thing. Although we're helpless against the thoughts coming in, we are not helpless when it comes to choosing what thoughts we invest into, all right? And this is where our free will comes into play. Free will. Now here's the thing. How many people do you know who've gone through life saying, I just want freedom, I want this freedom, I want that freedom, I want freedom of speech, I want financial freedom, freedom. Here's the thing, doesn't matter what we get in life, doesn't matter what we have, doesn't matter what happens to us. The only area in our lives that we're actually free is in our capacity to choose how it is that we respond or react to the thoughts that pop into our mind. This is what I'm talking about when I refer to personal liberation, personal freedom. Right? How many people do you know that will stay in a dead-end job that they hate for anything up to a lifetime, or they'll stay in an abusive relationship for decades, and they'll say, oh, but I have to. Oh, but I have to. Oh, I should be doing this. I must be doing that. Says who? All right. Sometimes, we are prisoners of our own minds, are prisoners of our own thinking. This becomes more like a prison cell for us, doesn't it? With big bars. I can't do this. I can't do that. Life must be lived in the way that I think it must be lived because someone else said so at some point in the past. Nonsense. All right. We've each been born with a sound mind. All right. We're not born with sound thoughts, right? The thoughts that come in can sometimes be quite distorted, sometimes quite, we can be sometimes quite disillusioned in our thinking, all right? Sometimes the thoughts that pop into our head are kind of a million miles from the truth. And this is where we've got to get discerning. The thoughts that are entering our lives that are sound, that are wise, that are mature, that are accurate, and those that aren't. Those that are helpful from those that are unhelpful. This is where self-awareness, self-regulation comes into play. Because here's the thing, if we do not think, or if we refuse to believe that we have a choice, if we are operating out of this mindset, I'm a victim, I have no control over the things that I do, over things that happen to me and how I respond to people, everyone else out there determines how I feel and how I act and how I am on a day-to-day basis, we are never going to be able to self-regulate in this way. And we won't, and what's true for us is true for our clients. My friend, I'm speaking to you here as a human being first and foremost. Never mind as a CBT practitioner. As a human being, you've got to apply the stuff within yourself first and foremost, because it's then and only then that you're going to be poised in a place to be able to guide and lead your future clients through the same self-regulatory, if that's even a word, regulation process. You know what I mean? All right, so our mind, our free will, and our emotions all operate up here, all right? We might experience emotions physically down here in our gut. I mean, think about stress, right? Focus on the last time you felt stressed. Where do you feel stress? Down here in our stomach. Where do we feel anger? Sometimes tightness of chest, clenched muscles, we start shaking and sweating and all this kind of stuff. Or maybe that's just me. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that's universal for everyone. But it's our mind that the thoughts come in. We cannot control the thoughts that pop into our mind, but through our free will, we can control the thoughts that we choose to validate and acknowledge and then act upon. The thoughts that we choose to acknowledge and act upon, they determine the emotional consequence. This is just a different way of looking at the ABC model. Can you see that? See what we're doing here, all right? Now, I could just give you one model, but I appreciate that sometimes it's through looking at the same idea from multiple perspectives that really gives us that depth of insight and understanding. So I really want you to get this, friend. I really want you to get this, all right? Why? Because if you get this, you in turn are going to be out there positively impacting the lives of many other people. This stuff should be getting taught in schools, but it's not. So the question is, how? All right? How is it that we start to take control of our lives? Well, we've got to look at this, all right? Let's come back to this earlier model that we looked at in the last section of the course, all right? This is our life experience. This is how we experience life, all right? We've got the world out there. We've got all the activating events, all the things that happen to us, all the people, all the situations. We've got the economy. We've got the weather. We've got all these things, all right? And every single one of these things we're going to have thoughts about, all right? They're going to be little angelic thoughts, or they're going to be little devil thoughts, all right, good ones, or they're going to be bad ones. And here's the thing, the thoughts that we choose to act upon and acknowledge and validate will determine the emotional consequences. All right, think about the thoughts that you're focusing on right now. Look at how you're feeling towards me in this video. Are you getting frustrated? Kate and Ramsey, you've said this idea a few different times now. Let's move on. I just want to get my certificate. I just want to... What are you thinking about? All right, no one else in the world is bad. It's just your perceptions, your interpretations, your assumptions that are sometimes inaccurate and bad. All right? So here's the thing. How we feel usually, 9 times out of 10, triggers a reaction or a response. Now, reactions are generally always going to be emotionally based. What happens? I feel angry. Gah! We act out in anger. Fear. Well, you've probably heard the fight, flight, freeze framework, haven't you? Might all fear-based. So whether we react or whether we respond, a calculated, adjusted, mature response is going to be based upon us looking at the options. Right? Oh my goodness, this thing's happened to me right now and I'm feeling like this and I feel like I want to respond or react in this way, but is this the wisest, most mature, most helpful course of action that I could take or not? Let me start now processing this. Let me figure it out in my mind so that the decision that I make is going to be a responsive one, not just an emotionally led reaction. Why is it you think the prisons are full? Why do you think so many men and women repeat offend throughout the States, throughout Europe, throughout UK? Australia has a massive problem with this as well. Much throughout Europe. The prisons are bursting at the seams. Why? Because men and women do not know how to self-regulate. This is life-changing stuff, by the way, friends. It is, right? Why is it that people get sent to prison? Is it because they have bad thoughts? Is it because they get angry sometimes? Or is it because they act upon the thoughts that they have and respond to the emotions that they have, or react, to the emotions that they have? Then the actions that they take might be vile, they might be aggressive, they might be violent, abusive, sordid. When we understand this, we can just better understand people. And we can stop labeling people as being good or bad because of the things that they do. Just simply, sometimes I feel sorry for some people. I genuinely do. I have compassion for people because I know that most people do not understand themselves because this stuff isn't taught in school. Leaves you with a pretty big opportunity, doesn't it? So, results and outcomes. Here's the thing. If we are acting upon this little guy all the time, he will lead us down the garden path. And I know you know what I'm talking about. But when we can tune into this is the voice of reason. This is the wise mind. The wise mind speaking. Never mind what my rational mind's saying. Never mind what the emotions are saying. What is the wisest, most mature, most balanced, grounded response that I can make here? What decision do I need to make that's in alignment with what I want? That's not going to screw up my relationships or my career or my finances or my marriage or the relationship with my children or something that's going to land me in prison for the rest of my life. All right? Do you think that people who are in prison planned to get there? No, they didn't. They just got caught, unfortunately. I've never known too many people that set out to hurt people in life or really screw their lives up, but yet it happens. Why? Because people don't know how to self-regulate. So, the question that you might be asking is, Kane, how do I self-regulate? How do I break the vicious cycle in my life? How do I help other people to break the vicious cycle in their life? We've got to know ourselves. We've got to understand the thoughts that are popping into our minds on a day-to-day basis and be able to realize how it is that we're responding to them, whether we're reacting, whether we're buying into them, whether we're subscribing to them, or whether we're not. All right? Don't even think it. Become a member of the Thought Police, friends. That's right. Get your Bobby's helmet. Give me 2 seconds. You get your Bobby's helmet on, kind of like this. You stick it on your head, and every single time a thought pops into your mind, and I'm doing this because I want this idea to stick. I'm going to make myself look stupid. All right? If this will just stay with you, next time you feel yourself getting angry, next time you feel yourself getting stressed, next time you've got an emotional reaction going on inside of you, stop. All right? Stop in the name of the law, in the name of the thought police. In the name of the thought police, I can barely even speak. This thing's so tight on my chin. And ask yourself, right, what was I thinking? What thought popped into my mind there that I validated that perhaps wasn't true? If a thought pops into your mind that isn't valid, my friend, don't validate it. You've got to go there first, because only through you going there first, you're going to be able to lead other people into the same degree of insight and understanding and knowledge of themselves. And this thing's just about choking me, so I'm going to take it off round about there. Thought policing. Now, to help you do this, what we've created, a couple of resources, a thought record. Now, this is going to be more useful for some people than others. It's a very, very common CBT-based tool, all right? For people that do struggle to self-regulate and manage their emotions, it can be useful. Just simply, you've got to guide them through the process here. When they do find themselves in a place of angst, anger, rage, sadness, depression, right? Get them to backtrack. Get them to backtrack. We now understand these different models and these different ways of looking at life. So the person's having a feeling. We know that something's come before that. It was a thought. What was it? What's the problematic emotion? I'm angry. I'm anxious. Okay, so what was the cognitive distortion? What was the cognitive bias? What was it? What idea did I just validate that I shouldn't have validated? Right? What little thought got through my managed to get through that shouldn't have done? All right? This is how we manage our thoughts by becoming members of the thought police. Is this all right? So listen, there's a resource that we've created for you. download it. And if you do have a problem self-regulating in some areas of your life, then use it yourself. It's just like a little, or you write it in a diary or something like that. Get into the habit. Make this a lifestyle habit for yourself. If you have an emotion, angry, happy, sad, whatever, doesn't make any difference. What thought preceded it? What thought did you buy into? If you're feeling happy, excited, ecstatic, why? What were you thinking about? You got to get grounded in seeing how it is that our thoughts influence and completely determine our feelings, because it's our feelings that trigger our reactions or our responses that then bring about the outcomes in life that we either are okay with or that we are not okay with. And that's when people have problems in life. It's the outcomes that they don't like that then just trigger more thoughts, more feelings, more, and so the vicious cycle continues. Listen, I really want you to get this stuff. This is crucial. These are pretty much the foundations of CBT now. So download the resource, the workbook, and apply it to yourself. But share this one with your clients as well, and build this into your repertoire of CBT practicing resources. We've done the hard work, so you don't have to. Right? Hope you found this idea useful, and I'll see you again in the next clip. Now I'm going to go take this stupid hat off.